Legend of Exorcism. Chapter 43. The northernmost ocean has a fish. That same day, Li Jinglong brought up the idea of returning to Chang'an where he could accompany Heng Jun in finding some tasty food to eat as they waited for Qing Xiang. With that, the troubles of last night finally left Heng Jun, and with the carp Yao in tow, they departed from Mt. Li. Although theoretically, waiting anywhere would be the same, since when the golden-winged Great Peng went searching for them, it would naturally just appear before them, staying in the exorcism department felt a little more comforting. Last night, the city of Chang'an had also collected a layer of new snow, but it hadn't piled up. By noon, there was mud all over the streets, and the eaves dripped incessantly with water as Li Jinglong specially brought Heng Jun to the carp leaping over the dragon gate and ordered a table full of dishes. Either way, now that Zhenqi had money, he no longer needed to order only water to drink. Heng Jun then began to think that A Tai and the others leaving was such a pity. If he had known earlier, they should have eaten a meal together as a send-off banquet. As the two of them ate, they chatted about past matters as well. Heng Jun only felt that after the night had passed, the relationship between himself and Li Jinglong seemed to have undergone a kind of mysterious change. Before, though everyone was loud and rowdy, Li Jinglong was still their superior. After they had all left, he was now like a big brother, and this intimate familial feeling grew more and more obvious. If Qing Xiang doesn't come, Li Jinglong said, then won't you have to celebrate New Year's in Chang'an? Heng Jun smiled. We never did celebrate the New Year in Yaojin Palace. Are you going home? Li Jinglong replied, before, I used to live in my cousin's home, but instead of taking shelter under someone else's roof, I would rather spend it at the exorcism department. Heng Jun understood that Li Jinglong treated that place like a home, and he also gradually came to realize that a home was only a home if there were family members there. Last night, when Chongming hadn't taken him away, that had actually given Li Jinglong a little hope that he would no longer be lonely. Otherwise, when he returned to the exorcism department, with the walls echoing with emptiness, there wouldn't be much of a point. The two of them left the carp leaping over the dragon gate, but just as they were about to leave the western market, they suddenly saw a crowd of people gathered around a stall to the side of a bookstore, and a line snaking outwards. What tasty food are they selling? As soon as Heng Jun saw that line, he knew that there was good food to eat. Li Jinglong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't you just finish stuffing yourself? I'm only 70% full, Heng Jun answered after rubbing his stomach. Li Jinglong could only go by it. Who was the subordinate and who was the superior now? How come he, as the Zhenqi, still had to wait on Heng Jun? But when he came to the front of the line, he found that it was a fortune teller instead. Two pennants were hung outside. The left one read The Passage of Carefree Days, and the right one read, Wandering Through the Heavens and the Earth. There's a fortune teller stall here. Li Jinglong was very taken aback. Hit the nail right on the head, the citizens said to Li Jinglong. He came to Chang'an yesterday. He'll only be here for 3 days before he leaves. Heng Jun stretched out his neck to look, and seeing that they weren't selling food, he said, let's go ba. Li Zhenqi, are you here to have your marriage fortune or your career fortune told? Someone asked jokingly. Li Jinglong hesitated for a split second. Originally he wanted to leave, but he also felt that missing this opportunity would be a pity. With sudden inspiration, he asked, how about we check the whereabouts of that person you're trying to find? Heng Jun had never had his fortune told, so was this really useful? He wasn't even the slightest bit curious about the future, but after thinking about it, he decided to go see what the commotion was about. What do you want to ask? Heng Jun asked Li Jinglong as they got in line. Li Jinglong hadn't thought it through either. Heng Jun said, are you going to ask about your marriage fortune? Li Jinglong suddenly spoke, let's have him calculate how far the fate between the two of us stretches ba. Heng Jun didn't say anything more. Li Jinglong's arm was slung around Heng Jun's shoulder as he leaned on him, and they looked like two brothers. He continued, the first time I met you all in the exorcism department, I just knew that there would be a day when Mo Rijin and the rest would leave, but without knowing why, I always felt that you wouldn't leave. Hung Jun smiled. When I go home, I'll take you with me, and when you want to go back to Chang'an, we can head down together. It was strange, as soon as the two of them got in line, the fortune teller inside seemed to get much faster. After just a few exchanged sentences, it was their turn. Just as they were hesitating over who should go in first, because Li Jinglong wanted Hung Jun to go before him, there was a call from inside. Li Zhenqi first, please. He actually knows your name. Hung Jun exclaimed. His ears are sharp, Li Jinglong responded quietly. He heard the sounds of the citizens speaking outside just now. And saying this, he strode in, only to see that there was a screen set up within the stall. After circling around the screen, there was a door in front of him, and a hanging curtain to the side. Sit here first, a man's voice said quietly. As soon as Li Jinglong walked through the curtain, his surroundings instantly became completely silent. It was as if he had walked into an array. In that moment, all sound grew distant, his surroundings becoming so silent that it felt unnatural. The sea of deadened sound, the man answered. People outside cannot hear what's going on inside, and people inside cannot hear what's going on outside. Across the table sat a pale, frail young man, his eyes covered with a black strip of cloth. His outfit, a pitch-black long robe, was fastened securely up to his collar, and his lips were as smooth as jade. Li Jinglong immediately grew wary. The person in front of him knew magic. Was he a Yaoguai? The head of the Chang'an exorcism department, Li Jinglong, the man said quietly. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, this humble one is Yuan Kun. Li Jinglong hadn't expected that this person was actually in the same profession as him, and he said darkly, what matter of deity is your excellency? There is someone waiting in the backyard who naturally will answer your question, Yuan Kun said quietly. What else do you want to ask? Suddenly, Li Jinglong couldn't bring himself to say anything, and he suspiciously looked at Yuan Kun. Yuan Kun said slowly, didn't you want to ask about fate? Li Jinglong demanded, you recognize Hung Jun? You're a Yaoguai. Fate exists in the span of a single wish of yours. Yuan Kun turned his head, and after musing for a long time, he continued, the 14th year of Tianbao, which is 1 year later, is a time you must tread warily. Li Jinglong sucked in a deep breath, but Yuan Kun stretched his hands out, one of his wrists flat on the table, the other, white fingers spread, reaching towards Li Jinglong's chest. Li Jinglong shrank backwards, and Yuan Kun suddenly said, undo the upper half of your robes, quick, there are still people waiting behind you. What do you want to do? Li Jinglong asked warily. Yuan Kun responded, to undo your robes or not, it is in the span of a single wish of yours. Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong unconsciously lifted his hand and began to undo the buttons. Now this is right, Yuan Kun said easily. Tens of thousands of things in the world are born from a single wish, and are also destroyed with a single wish. Li Jinglong undid his inner robe, revealing his bare left side of his chest, saying, you want to see my heart lamp? Yuan Kun didn't respond to that. Instead, he said, fate and destiny, life and death, victory and defeat, all can change instantly. Sweeping plains can turn into vast oceans, all within the span of this single wish. Saying this, Yuan Kun formed his hand into a sword fingers pose, gently sketching out a sigil with them, before he pushed the sigil forwards, and it branded itself on the left side of Li Jinglong's chest. Feeling a wave of searing pain, Li Jinglong said, what is this? Yuan Kun responded, you'll know later. You. No more questions. Yuan Kun placed his two hands on the table, turning his blindfolded eyes towards Li Jinglong, saying, pay up ba. Li Jinglong's forehead furrowed, and he asked, how much? Sign here, Yuan Kun said. You owe me one body, and when the time comes, I'll come to collect. Sign. Li Jinglong asked darkly, whose body? Yuan Kun raised his eyebrows, saying, just sign. At minimum, I will not ask you to go kill someone, and when the time comes, I will only ask you for someone who is already dead. To believe it or not is all within the span of a single wish of yours. The two of them were at a stalemate for a moment. Li Jinglong's breathing quickened as he had a staring contest with a blind person, his eyes focused intently on Yuan Kun. Yuan Kun handed him a pen before smoothing out a sheet of paper. Li Jinglong then wrote down I owe Yuan Kun one body, and Yuan Kun pushed the vermilion seal over. Li Jinglong didn't know why, but, as if he was under the control of something supernatural, he pressed his fingerprint to the paper. What am I doing? After pressing down his fingerprint, Li Jinglong began to waken slowly. Go to the backyard ba, Yuan Kun said. You are a good child, and the road you have to travel is long yet. Li Jinglong retreated, thinking that if Yuan Kun was a Yaoguai, then he must quickly go back to Hengjun to discuss countermeasures against him. Despite leaving this writ of debt behind, as long as he stuck to his morals and didn't wildly go about killing people, then even if it was a Yaoguai, it would have no way to get that soul from him. He rose and backed up, past the hanging curtain, and his surroundings instantly regained their usual hubbub. All he heard was Yuan Kun inside, calling clearly, next please. Li Jinglong turned his head, but he couldn't see Hengjun coming in. From the inside, Yuan Kun said, aren't you going to leave quickly? Must you two be in the same spot every second of the day for you to feel at ease? With that, Li Jinglong could only go into the backyard. In the courtyard there stood a man, and seeing him walk over, the man nodded slightly. After any bystanders had their fortunes told, they all left through the side door. The young man said politely. I have been waiting for you for a long time, Li Jinglong. That young man's posture was straight, and he was almost 9 chi tall, the same height as Li Jinglong. His features were well formed and carved deeply into his face, and within his pitch-black pupils was a faint luster of dark gold. At this moment, his upper body was bare. The lines of his abdominal muscles were well defined, and his skin was the color of wheat. Around his waist was tied a pitch-black royal robe embroidered with gold. He stood there with his feet pointing straight forward, his expression casual, but with the air of a ruler surveying his realm. Li Jinglong instantly began to worry about Hengjun's safety as he took a step back, wondering, was this the Black Jiao? If so, then who was the one outside? Wu, I'm not the Black Jiao, the young man said. No need to worry. Li Jinglong startled. He could read his thoughts? What Yaoguai was he? Yes, the young man nodded and spoke. The one outside can see your future, and I can see into your innermost thoughts. We can't be counted as Yaoguai, though, sometimes, I too will eat people. But at least, I don't eat people right now. Who are you? Li Jinglong finally opened his mouth. He took in that young man's appearance. His bare upper body and the royal robe around his waist made him think of that man that he had seen yesterday night on the tall cliff on Mt. Li. Their royal robes were cut in a similar style, perhaps. You've guessed right, Qing Xiang said warmly. There's not much time left, so let's exchange a few blows ba, so that I can prevent my little nephew from getting his ear sliced again. Li Jinglong. Hengjun circled around the screen, looking everywhere as he asked, is anyone here? Here, Yuan Kun replied from behind the curtain. Where are you looking? Don't go to the courtyard, if the secret gets out, then don't blame me. Hengjun. Are you that fortune teller? After passing through the curtain, Hengjun sat down. Yuan Kun said, you are really smart. Hengjun chuckled, hee hee, before he lowered his head and saw the paper that Li Jinglong had written. He asked, what's this? Yuan Kun didn't reveal a trace of emotion as he folded up the paper and stashed it away, before saying, speak ba, what do you want to ask? Hengjun scratched his head and said, for the rest of my living years, will I be able to see my dad again? Yuan Kun said, your dad's temper isn't very good ba. Hung Jun made a noise of agreement before saying, it was me who provoked him and made him unhappy. Yuan Kun replied, all troubles arise from one's own heart. Do not worry about these trivial matters, your dad still dearly loves you. Liar, Hung Jun's eyes reddened. Last night he even yelled at me. Yuan Kun said, what else do you have to ask? Then, Hung Jun said a little stiffly. Can I go home? If I go home, will I have to part with Zhenqi? That depends on where you consider home, Yuan Kun responded. Hung Jun didn't understand. Yuan Kun then said, what else do you have to ask? Hung Jun thought about it, before saying, nothing else. That Carpiao behind you should hurry up and cultivate and collect merits, Yuan Kun couldn't help but add. Zhao Zilong, hey, he's talking about you. Hung Jun pulled the Carpiao out. The Carpiao was currently taking its afternoon nap, and its eyes spun before it woke up, its mouth open as it turned its head, sending a glance towards Yuan Kun. Yuan Kun, how come it's cultivated such a personality, too lacking in aesthetics? The Carpiao. The Carpiao instantly let out a piteous cry. Kun God! Kun God! Are you the Kun God? Yuan Kun frowned. Not only is it lacking in aesthetic, it's also this noisy. Kun, you're the Kun God. Hung Jun startled, and he said, how come you've come to Chang'an? Where's Qing Xiang? Hung Jun knew that Qing Xiang had a very close friend who was a Kun of the North Sea, but he very rarely came to the Central Plains. Hung Jun hadn't expected to run into him here of all places. 1,000 blessings for the Kun God, the Carpiao hurried to kneel down, saying, this little one begs the Kun God to point out a path. Hung Jun interrupted, are you really the Kun God? Where's Qing Xiang? Quick, tell me. Have you seen my dad? Both of you, shut up. Yuan Kun grew irritated. The Carpiao immediately went to dig around in Hung Jun's bag. Pulling out a bag of fish food from Mt. Li, it raised it up with both hands, eyes filled with anticipation as it said, Kun God, this is an offering from this little one. I want to become a dragon, and if that isn't possible, then at least a human, please, I'm begging you. I don't eat this. Yuan Kun was extremely frustrated with that Carpiao's fussing, and he continued, save 81 people, and after saving them, then come find me. You must do it all on your own, you can't have anyone helping you. As for you, Yuan Kun held a ruler in his hand, and he tapped it against the table. After thinking for a moment, he said, 2 years hence, you naturally will be able to return to Yaojin Palace. Really? Hung Jun said. Are you doubting my abilities? Yuan Kun was on the verge of exploding. Hung Jun hurried to wave his hand, no, no. Yuan Kun said, the carp can give the fee, go away ba. Leave the fish food. As for you. Hung Jun said, I have money. Yuan Kun said, leave me a writ of debt, you owe me a hunpo. Hung Jun, ah. Yuan Kun said, right. Hung Jun felt that this was very strange, but he still wrote it down on the paper and pressed his fingerprint next to it. Yuan Kun then said, at last it's all gathered. Whose soul? Hung Jun asked. Either way, it's not yours, Yuan Kun responded. It's also not Li Jinglong's. There's someone waiting in the backyard for you, go ba. Hung Jun left, feeling baffled, but when he went into the backyard, he suddenly saw Qing Xiang. Immediately, he let out a loud cry and ran up. Qing Xiang's pose was spread wide as he was teaching Li Jinglong how to perform a series of barehanded forms, but when he heard Hung Jun's shout, he reached one hand out back and pressed it against Hung Jun's forehead, holding him in place. Where's my dad? Hung Jun asked. Don't know. After Qing Xiang went through the last 2 forms, he asked Li Jinglong, you remember? I will remember these teachings, Li Jinglong said, cupping his hand around his fist. Qing Xiang then said to Hung Jun, before, you always used to pester me, saying that I wouldn't teach you martial arts. Now that I'm teaching you, pay close attention. Li Jinglong, when you have spare time, you need to push him to practice more. Li Jinglong responded in the affirmative before he stood off to one side to watch. Hung Jun focused his attention and followed in Qing Xiang's steps. Before, Qing Xiang had demonstrated a set of forms called the Peng Flies 10,000 Li, and after teaching Li Jinglong, he now changed his stance. He drew his fist and palm apart, saying, this set of barehanded forms is what your dad used when he was alive, and it needs to be accompanied by the pentacolor sacred light to make the most use of its power. Hung Jun and Ed, not daring to interrupt. Qing Xiang continued to explain. There are only two forms in the entire set, one is to release, the other is to gather. The pentacolor sacred light is the strongest artifact in the world, and though there are unavoidably things that can suppress it, it contains the power of gods and devils melded into one. And saying this, Qing Xiang first splayed his arms open, saying, when you release, it is as if it encompasses all, like the eternal realms existing in an endless cycle. When you gather it back, it is as if the entirety of Mamoru can be contained within a mustard seed, and no matter if your opponent's power is like the lofty mountains and deep seas, as soon as everything is gathered, then it becomes nothingness. Hung Jun followed Qing Xiang in turning, his palms crossing, and as he focused his attention on them, the pentacolor sacred light began to circulate in the center of them. Thousands and millions of changes all happen in these two forms, Qing Xiang said. If you gather correctly, you can cause huge waves that touch the sky and break mountains. If you release right, you can block the strikes of wild lightning that split the sky and the weight of Mt. Tai crushing you. Hung Jun crossed his legs and turned. Qing Xiang was like a golden peng spreading its wings, while Hung Jun was like an elegant phoenix. His manner when he was practicing martial arts was composed, and he was extremely pleasing to the eye. Have you figured it out? Qing Xiang asked. A little, Hung Jun said. Just now the Kun god said. Practice slowly ba, Qing Xiang answered. Obedient nephew, we will meet again someday. And with that, he turned, suddenly giving off strong rays of golden light as he rose off the flat ground. There was a huge bang from the front hall, and a streak of black light pierced the sky as both of the great Yaogui vanished at the same time, leaving behind Li Jinglong and Hung Jun looking at each other. Afternoon, Hung Jun bore an expression of disbelief, as if he was dreaming, as he walked with Li Jinglong into the exorcism department. The car Piao staggered after them, and even its gate was filled with confusion. What did he do to you? Hung Jun asked. Li Jinglong responded, where the heart lamp is, he left behind a brand. Hung Jun asked, let me look. Hung Jun saw that on Li Jinglong's chest, there was a dancing sigil of an ember, like a bruise. Perhaps it's some magic to protect your heart meridian, Hung Jun said. What did Qing Xiang teach you? Li Jinglong smiled lightly, responding, a few fist techniques, a few sword techniques. Zhao Zilong, are you all right? Hung Jun hollered towards the car Piao. The car Piao, after being spurned by the Kun god, was a little dejected. It hugged its Buddha bone, saying, I want to go save people. Just at this moment, someone shouted from outside, Li Zhenji. Li Zhenji of the exorcism department. The voice sounded like Huang Yang from the judiciary department. Li Jinglong went to open the door, letting the person in. Huang Yang was wrapped in a thick fur coat, and when he came in, he was so tired that he was panting. He said, something big has happened in the northwest region, the messenger falcons have flown for a day and night. You need to come with me to the Ministry of War, and you too, come, both of you, come. Li Jinglong's forehead began to furrow. Twilight, the roof of Daming Palace. Chongming, Qing Xiang, and Yuan Kun stood on the roof. The rays of the setting sun shone on them, and the glass roof tiles glittered with light. Leave it up to his destiny. Ba, Yuan Kun said. What I'm afraid of is the day Mara is reborn. In mortal matters, the designs of mortals cannot be compared with those of the heavens. Chongming's voice held some rage as he said, I only wish to bring him back to Yaojin Palace. If he never went down the mountain for his entire life, no matter how powerful the demonic seed grew, how would that matter to him? If Kong Xian had been willing to listen to my words back then and stayed in Yaojin Palace instead of falling in love with that woman, how would there be today? Qing Xiang said mildly, Chongming, fledglings leaving the nest is an unquestionable truth. The day of your rebirth is approaching. When that time comes, who else will protect him? Though the heart lamp has gone to the wrong person, Yuan Kun said quietly, the cloth of his blindfold swaying in the wind, that Li Jinglong's appearance may not be the variable that it seems. As long as he can hold his ground, I will not place my hope on a mortal. Chongming said angrily. Qing Xiang said, so you forced Hung Jun to choose. After all, as long as it's not easy for you, then you don't want anyone else to have it easy, isn't that right? You, Chongming stared into Qing Xiang's eyes as he frustratedly let out a huff. Qing Xiang responded, today, you also heard Hung Jun's words. Is this not enough? Yuan Kun's forehead scrunched up, and he said darkly, sometimes I really get annoyed with you birds, spending all day twittering and chirping like old grannies. The most important matter right now is to find that black Jiao, where exactly did it run off to? End chapter.
Legend of Exorcism. Scroll 2, Nine-Colored Deer. Chapter 44. The Mystery of the Slaughtered Cities. Departing from Chang'an after the first snow, the thousands of residences looked as if they were built from white jade. After noon, the melting snow clung to the winter plum blossoms as Li Jinglong and Hung Jun came to the garden inside the Ministry of War. Within the fragrance of the blossoms, multiple high officials were sitting around enjoying tea. Sitting in on the meeting was still the Minister of Justice, Wen Yu, and a purple-robed third-rank official. Crown Prince Li Hong sat imposingly on the main seat, and the moment he saw Li Jinglong, he nodded his head once, saying, Jinglong, Hung Jun, sit. This is already the fourth military report that has been received this month. Jade green tea was poured into the tea bowl, and the Minister of Justice Wen Yu handed the bowl of tea to Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong then passed it to Hung Jun, who was still thinking over the words that Qing Xiang had spoken as well as Chongming's departure last night, and his spirits were still a little low. Sitting to the right-hand side of the Crown Prince was a high-ranking official wearing a purple robe with a golden sash, but Li Jinglong recognized him. In the past, when his own superior, Hu Sheng, saw him, he also had to lower his head and bow in greeting, showing his utmost respect. That was the Minister of War, Fan Shen. In the three regions of Ganzhou, Yizhu, and Shazhu, the enemy always ambushes at night every time, and wherever they pass through, they leave not even a chicken or a dog behind, turning everything into nothing more than rubble. Fan Shen continued, no matter if it's elderly or youths, women, or children, they are all slaughtered, and the victims number in the tens of thousands. What the scouts of the Hexi troops have seen when all combined together is a hell on earth. Hearing those words, Li Jinglong startled. Hung Jun couldn't help his attention being drawn to the discussion. The scenery of the Ministry of War in the early winter was beautiful, but what the various officials were discussing was such a soul-trembling problem. Li Jinglong furrowed his brow. When Yu then asked, has General Geshuhan not sent out troops to investigate? He's already sent troops out 3 times past the Great Wall, Fan Shen replied. It is yet unclear whether it is the Uyghurs or the Turks causing this havoc. In the span of a month, they have slaughtered 4 cities in total, coming without a warning and leaving without a trace. General Geshuhan's subordinates have been investigating this for a long time, resisting the bitter cold of the region north of Yumen Pass, but they have not been able to find any clues at all. How does Jinglong see this? Li Hong suddenly asked. A group of officials looked towards Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong knew that if the crown prince was summoning him, no matter what had happened, it would definitely have something to do with Yaoguai. After listening to these few sentences, he understood the general gist of things and said, "This subject ventures to ask 3 questions." Everyone else in this crowd held an official's position higher than Li Jinglong's, and to start off with, they didn't believe in any talk of spiritual beings or gods. However, since the crown prince believed in such things, they couldn't say anything, instead hinting that Li Jinglong should speak. The first, the soldiers that were slaughtered in the city, what weapons were they attacked with? The second, what was the main method of plundering the city? In such a large city, not a single person managed to escape. The third, what is the imperial court's stance on this affair? After Li Jinglong asked those questions, the crown prince smiled and looked at the gathered people. "This is exactly what we're worried about," Fan Shen said. "There's really no way to explain it. The elderly and young, wives and children were all killed, but the strong, able-bodied young soldiers in the city disappeared in the span of a single night, never to be seen again." Hung Jun put down his bowl of tea and began to think. This didn't seem like something that humans would do. Of the riches and the grain in the city, not even a bit of it was touched. When you said, to this, the judiciary department is entirely at a loss, and as for the imperial court, when you looked to Li Hung for assistance. Li Hung breathed lightly but didn't reply. "Aside from these, there are no other clues?" Li Jinglong asked. "Aside from these, there are no other clues at all," Li Hung replied. After the time it takes to burn 1 stick of incense, Li Hung, Li Jinglong, and Hung Jun walked out of the main doors of the Ministry of War. "Chancellor Yang has completed his military service and is returning to the court," Li Hung explained. "The military reports are currently being detained in his grasp. 100,000 troops, if you were to call it a lot, it isn't a lot, but if you were to call it a little, it also isn't a little. 4 cities being destroyed is a large matter in the border territories. There are many oddities within this matter, but they all believe it's a case where the Uyghur soldiers are plundering on a large scale before winter arrives." Li Jinglong took in a deep breath, his brows furrowing deeply. "It can't be the Uyghurs. If it was the Uyghurs, how could they have left the riches and goods in the city untouched?" "You too believe that it's related to Yao?" Li Hung asked. Hung Jun said, "We need to go take a look at the place. Right now, like this, it's hard to say." Li Hung said, "We only have 2.5 months. Once spring comes, the Uyghur diplomatic envoy will arrive in Chang'an. If we cannot get evidence by then, perhaps the Chancellor of the Right will consider finding an excuse to send the armies out against the Uyghurs. His Majesty will permit it?" Li Jinglong immediately grew nervous. Li Hung only watched Li Jinglong quietly, and as he did, Hung Jun sensed the faintest sliver of danger. Immediately, Li Hung nodded his head lightly, saying, "Originally, I believed that fortunes would be born from the depths of misfortune, but I didn't expect that, this time, everything would depend on you all." "That's right, where are those other subordinates of yours?" Li Jinglong smiled bitterly. "The Yao King has already been dealt with, and each of them had other urgent matters to deal with, so they left for distant places, leaving behind Hung Jun to keep me company." Saying this, Li Jinglong placed one hand on Hung Jun's shoulder. Li Hung didn't find it strange at all, he merely said, as if he was deep in thought, "That, though, is the same." "There will be people to help you," Li Jinglong answered. "When you are at the end of your rope, a favorable turn is just around the corner." "But isn't that you?" Li Hung smiled. "Here is a personal handwritten letter from me. After you arrive in Hexi, find General Geshuhan first. Go ba, I will wait for your good news." Hung Jun found this entire conversation very confusing as he stood to the side listening to the two of them exchanging these pithy, profound remarks. In the end, Li Hung mounted his horse and left. "What's the same?" His Highness the Crown Prince meant that his current circumstances are very similar to mine back in the day. He spent many years fighting battles in the field, and after all that trouble, Li Linfa finally fell, allowing him to return Chang'an, but he hadn't expected that a new contender would appear in front of him, Yang Qiuzhong. Li Jinglong was packing his things in the room. Hung Jun changed into a set of cultivation martial robes, carrying a bag on his back, squatting on the railings under the cover of the hallway watching him. If this knot between the Great Tang and the Uyghurs is unable to be untied, Li Jinglong retrieved his clothes, passing by Hung Jun with a gust of wind as he continued, Yang Qiuzhong will once again find a way to send His Highness the Crown Prince out again. This was the first time that Hung Jun had heard Li Jinglong explain political struggles like this, and he gradually began to understand the friction and conflict between people. In the end, ever since the beginning of time, humans' lust for power had never abated. So will they start to fight? Hung Jun exclaimed. Then isn't Yang Qiuzhong rebelling? He wouldn't dare. Li Jinglong didn't know if he should laugh or cry. The Yang family just wants to keep surviving as well. Though it seemed like Yang Qiuzhong held great power, it was only due to the fact that his younger sister was favored that he could tyrannize and oppress others, and thus he had made many enemies within the court. After the Fox Yao case happened, it must have had an effect on the Yang family. In the coming days, as soon as Li Longji died and Li Hong took the throne, the first thing he would do would be to settle the accounts with the Yang family. Because of this, Yang Qiuzhong had to find a way to ensure the survival of his whole family, so he and the Crown Prince sank into this action of circling warily around each other. So it's not definite that they'll start fighting the Uyghurs, Hung Jun said. N. Li Jinglong retrieved the traveling expenses, once again passing by Hung Jun, saying, they may not fight with the Uyghurs, but he can send the Crown Prince out once again to stand guard in Liangzhou. This way, he can once again stretch his hand out and make arrangements within the court. Hung Jun had learned quite a bit, and at this, he asked, then, if on the small possibility that they do start fighting, who do we help? Li Jinglong. Aside from helping the Crown Prince, who else can you help? The Carpiao couldn't bear listening to this any longer, and it said, are you dumb? When a new regime establishes itself in the human realm, if you don't help the emperor with destiny on his side, are you actually going to help the traitors? Fate is still with the Great Tang. Hung Jun said, but Imperial Consort Yang even gave me pastries to eat. Li Jinglong rested his head on his hand, thinking, someday, if Hung Jun was coaxed by Imperial Consort Yang into stabbing the Crown Prince with a throwing knife, with the reason behind that action being pastries, he really didn't know how the citizens of the realm would see it. The Crown Prince even gave you the nephrite jade beads, why didn't you mention that? Li Jinglong said angrily as he finished packing his bags. The Carpiao lifted a bundle as well, hopping into the hallway, saying, you too, I also must bid farewell here. No way. Li Jinglong didn't even listen before he grew enraged. Where are you heading off to? Hung Jun asked curiously. After the Carpiao had received the advice of the Kun god, it had been very down for the span of a Shishan and 2K, but it could not spend its fish life like this every day, so it decided to save 81 people, collecting merits to better itself would also be benefiting the masses. Now I've saved Imperial Consort Yang, the Carpiao said, I don't know if that counts, so I'd better start counting from the next one on. Hung Jun said, if you set out just like this, beware of being captured again to be made into braised fish. The Carpiao mulled that over for a long time. When it had come down from the mountain with Hung Jun, there was one time where it went to go dig for earthworms to eat and had almost been captured. Later, it was Hung Jun who had saved it and brought it back. Acting on its own would definitely be a dangerous endeavor, so it could only let that idea go. Then we'll have to first lay out a few ground rules. Li Jinglong said, his tone long-suffering, no one is going to restrict your freedom, go get the Lihun pollen quickly. Hung Jun then asked, is Hexi fun? What good food is there? Did I agree to taking you with me? Li Jinglong asked. Hung Jun. Zenshi. Hung Jun immediately shouted. My bag is already packed, do you really have the heart to leave me here all alone? Li Jinglong ducked his head as he folded his robes, saying, when you left your home to come to Chang'an, didn't you come on your own? Hung Jun, that's not the same. How is it different? Li Jinglong's mouth quirked up a little at the corners, and he brushed shoulders with Hung Jun as he went to go find his documents. Now that I know you, of course it's different, Hung Jun said. How can you leave me behind? See, all my things have even been packed. Saying this, Hung Jun patted his bundle. Li Jinglong had actually thought about leaving him in Chang'an to watch the house before, because no one knew if more Yaoguai would come to cause trouble. But leaving Hung Jun in the exorcism department was something that he could not stop worrying over. He himself would be on the road, so he would have no way to watch over him. The journey would be long, and both of them would be very lonely. Then we've got to lay out a few ground rules, Li Jinglong said. The first, when we're outside, you must listen to me about everything. I've always listened to you, Hung Jun said, puzzled. When have I not listened to you? Li Jinglong pointed a finger at Hung Jun, saying, that's not necessarily the case, for example. Li Jinglong racked his brains but could not find an example. Now that he thought about it, he found that Hung Jun was indeed the most obedient one. He could only continue, the second. Hung Jun hopped off the railing, reaching out a hand to tug at Li Jinglong, saying hurriedly, Zenshi, just name them, and I'll follow them all. Take me along. B.A. Li Jinglong looked at Hung Jun, and suddenly he began to smile. In that instant, he really wanted to pull him into his embrace and give him a few hard rubs. He subconsciously lifted his hand, but he sensed something and immediately stopped his movements. Don't keep tugging at me, Li Jinglong said. I'll take you along after all. Go pack your clothes, Hexie's very cold. Hung Jun was not very afraid of the cold, but under Li Jinglong's insistence, he brought a few more clothes, before gleefully, without waiting for any prompting, stuffed the carpiao into his bundle and hopped onto his horse to set off. Li Jinglong said, don't be too happy. This is going out on business, we're not going to play. Li Jinglong passed through the western market, buying some tea cakes from Jiangnan, salt, rouge and such things, before going to the jeweler's store and buying a pearl hairpin and a bolt of silk. Coiling it up into a bundle the size of his palm, he then stowed it in his bags. Hung Jun watched curiously, asking, Zenshi, are you planning to disguise yourself as a woman on this journey? What are you buying rouge for? Zenshi has wanted to do this for a long time, the carpiao said from its position on Hung Jun's back. After leaving Chang'an, no one will recognize him, so he can let loose and bewitch unwitting passerby for a bit. Did I guess that right? The citizens in the market laughed wildly, while Li Jinglong gritted his teeth and said, Hung Jun, if you keep damaging my reputation like this, then go back to the exorcism department. Hung Jun hurried to beg for mercy. Li Jinglong then turned his horse into an alley. Hung Jun felt this place was somewhat familiar, it was the Chen residence. Hung Jun hurried to clamber off his horse. Li Jinglong knocked on the door for a visit, and as usual, it was that madam carrying an infant who came out, saying, Captain Li, you've come again. Li Jinglong replied, I'm here to give you some spending money. The madam hurried to decline the gift, but Li Jinglong insistently handed her 5 gold ingots that were 10 liang in total. The madam couldn't win against him, so she could only accept them with tears of gratitude. You've grown up, huh? Hung Jun squeezed that infant's hand. The infant was already almost 10 months old, and his teeth had grown in. He grabbed Hung Jun's fingers and stuffed them right into his mouth, biting down without letting go, and Hung Jun hurried to say, let go. It hurts. Li Jinglong tried every method in the book and finally managed to coax that infant into opening his mouth, before he said to the madam, "We're setting out on some official business, and we'll come to visit you again when we return." "Hung Jun, we're going." Hung Jun knew that it was because of the heart lamp that he couldn't stop worrying about the descendants of the Chen family, and he couldn't help the swell of emotion in his heart. The two of them left Chang'an, heading north along the military road. Hung Jun was extremely bad at riding his horse, and he kept finding terrible paths for horses to travel along. After Li Jinglong had left the Ministry of War, he had been constantly mulling things over. He turned his head back and said to Hung Jun, "Save some energy, you'll get tired in just a few shishan." Hung Jun smiled. "You haven't told me yet what Liangzhou is like." Li Jinglong answered, "I also don't know. I haven't left Chang'an in my entire life." One shishan later. "Hung Jun, are we at the way station yet?" Li Jinglong answered, "There's still 2 more shishan until then. We've just left Chang'an, and we haven't even passed Mt. Li yet." Hung Jun began to feel bored. Back then, when he had come down from the Taihang Mountains, everything felt new and exciting, but now that he understood more about this world, he didn't find anything that he saw as strange anymore. It was early winter, and as far as the eye could see, everything was desolate and barren. Aside from hurrying along on their journey, there was only hurrying along on their journey, and if he wanted to talk with Li Jinglong, he had to raise his voice and shout to be heard, which was really too boring. 2 shishan later. Li Jinglong rode ahead on his horse, his face expressionless, carrying Hung Jun behind him. Hung Jun rested against Li Jinglong's back as he slept, and on Hung Jun's back was a carpiao. The carpiao's mouth didn't move at all as it too slept. Li Jinglong's horse had to carry the burden of 2 people and 1 fish, while Hung Jun's horse was completely unburdened, following behind. Li Jinglong. 3 shishan later. Li Jinglong patted Hung Jun behind him. "Hey, we're here." Hung Jun's gaze was blurred with sleep as he stretched. Li Jinglong clambered off his horse, digging through the luggage for their documents before he went to get them lodgings at the way station, while also making sure that they hadn't taken the wrong path. Hung Jun stood outside of the way station, his gaze dull as he looked around at his surroundings. When officials brought their subordinates out on business, it should have been the subordinates who took care of these petty matters, but when Li Jinglong had Hung Jun following after him, it was more like he was waiting hand and foot with great humility on a young master. What ordering others around, what gophers clearing the way, those were all things that he probably had no hope of experiencing his entire life. "Little young master," Li Jinglong called from inside. "Come in to eat, what are you standing around dumbly outside for?" As soon as Hung Jun heard eating, he walked in rapidly. That way station's waiter first shot a glance at Li Jinglong, before sliding it over to Hung Jun, saying, "Young master, right this way." 2 of your best rooms," Li Jinglong said to the waiter. "1 best room," the waiter said confusedly. Li Jinglong repeated, "2 of your best rooms." The waiter stuck out 1 finger, saying, "Every way station only has 1 best room. Bodyguard, how about you go sleep in the woodshed out back?" Hung Jun said, "No worries, I'll go sleep in the woodshed." "How can the young master sleep in the woodshed?" the waiter said. "Does your family still have any basic principles left?" Li Jinglong. Li Jinglong had never left Chang'an, so he didn't know that every way station along the military road only had 1 best room, and if any passing merchant wanted to take a rest, they would also have to set up a screen in the Great Hall meant for food and drinks and manage there for the night. The best room was left for those rich merchants with official documents or officials from Chang'an carrying out their duties to reside in. "Whatever, let's sleep together ba." Li Jinglong saw that that best room could still be considered clean, and the bed was pretty big, so he did some simple cleaning first. He had Hung Jun sleep on the inside, before finding a basin to store water in, letting the carpiao soak in it. The carpio had been blown by the wind and shone on by the sun for a whole day, and its entire fishy body was almost dried. He rushed back and forth, and only after finishing taking care of the young master did Li Jinglong lie down, thinking, before, at least I was also a young master, so why didn't I get to live for many days like one? Zenji, Hung Jun said. Li Jinglong responded, since we are out traveling, it's not the same as being at home, let this suffice for now ba. I can't sleep. During the day, Hung Jun had been carried by Li Jinglong for the entire way, so he had slept too much, and right now he was very awake. But Li Jinglong, ever since last night when Chongming had come to make his life difficult, had been in a state of high-strung tension, and so many things had happened during the day that now he only felt extremely wrung out, and as soon as his head hit the pillow his eyelids drooped. Li Jinglong said, his eyes closed. Then what do you want to do? I think that, for the Yaoguai in the north, there are 3 possibilities. Speak. Li Jinglong said shortly. His consciousness had already begun to drift off as Hung Jun said, legend has it that ever since the Shanhai period, there's been a kind of Yaoguai in the northwest called drought fiends. These Yaoguai cause their surroundings for thousands of li to undergo a huge drought, so that's why much of the land to the west is desert. Li Jinglong didn't make a sound. Hung Jun scooted a little closer, asking quietly, Zhang, Shi, are you asleep? Before, in Yaojin Palace, Hung Jun always liked to take the opportunity while Chongming was sleeping to play pranks on him. After he watched Li Jinglong for a while, he also started thinking about how to play around with him a little. Li Jinglong had already fallen soundly asleep. After observing him for a moment, Hung Jun felt that his features were very pleasing to the eye, so he grabbed a piece of paper and brushed it over his face a few times. Li Jinglong lifted a hand, swiping Hung Jun's wrist away. Hung Jun then went to go find a brush. Nightfall, on a desolate plain covered with withered trees. Origin left empty. Li, turning towards the north, and after galloping for a full day, he arrived on the banks of the Yellow River. This horse was like a gust of divine wind, and from the time the sun rose to the time it set, in the span of an entire day, it had run a whole 600 li. Do I need to go north again? Origin's outfit of cloth robes fluttered in the cold breeze as he let out a sigh. The winters of the north were extremely harsh and cold, and after leaving the Lake Hulun region, he originally had 4 choices. The first was to head west to the Gobi region, the second was to go south towards Suhang, before turning towards Nanyu, the third was to head towards Chang'an in Guangzhou, and the fourth was to enter Shu. Chu Yangxi had agreed to help him ask after the whereabouts of the white deer in the south on his way, and Tegla would do the same in the Gerda and Tianshan region. The other 2 both persuaded him that the best thing to do would be to spend winter in Chang'an before heading north, so that he could avoid the cruel cold of the Gobi. But waiting until the end of next spring to the beginning of summer was far too long, and who knows what variables would appear in that time. Origin carefully stowed the uniform of the exorcism department away, lest the robes become dirted. Like before, he wore that set of hunter's martial robes made of linen, but those summer clothes were far too thin. As soon as the cold wind blew at him, no matter how in shape he was, he couldn't resist a little shiver. He thought to himself, after crossing the Yellow River, he would have to buy a set of clothes to wear in a town. Not many days later, the Yellow River would be frozen over. Origin led his horse onto the last ferry. When the ferry was about to set off, he couldn't resist turning his head back to send a longing glance at the vast central plains to the south. As night fell, Yulin County on the northern bank was still shining with bright lights. Origin kept rubbing his hands together and breathing on them as he strode to the furrier's stall, moving like a meteor. Origin was tall, lithe, and handsome, and he led a divine steed around by the reins, that attracted the envious gazes of many people on the street. A moment later, he strode out, having changed into a fur-lined coat, wearing a fox pelt hat, recovering the look of a Shiwei man's outfit, which only caused him to look more energetic and handsome. After Emorigen changed into his new clothes, he casually pulled out an already made leather mask out from his bag, putting it on his face to block the wind and snow. His bright eyes looked towards the street. Tonight, he could only find some temporary lodgings in Yulin. He put on gloves, preparing to go find some wine to drink in the city, but just at this instant, along the street there came a person, rushing over, mad and flighty, his hair loose as he let out loud, wild shouts. Emorigen turned his head and glanced at him, but his feet didn't stop moving as he continued to lead his horse towards a wine shop. "Hey! You there, stop!" That madman fell onto the snowy ground outside of the medicine hall, and a man raced up from behind, shouting angrily as he grabbed the baked bing from his hand. The madman had stolen a bing, and now he trembled uncontrollably as that man walked away, spitting out curses. "Don't block the front of the stall, I'm doing business here," the boss shouted. "Fuck off." The madman crawled and scrambled as he escaped to one side, muttering something incessantly as he did so. With a flash of thought, Emorigen felt around and pulled out a few copper coins. Just as he was thinking about buying a bing to give to him, he suddenly heard in the distance, the madman muttering quietly, "Ghost, ghost, ghost, where's the deer? Deer." Behind the mask, Emorigen's eyes widened instantly, and he turned and ran towards that madman. That madman kept ducking away to escape, panting like a bellows. Emorigen took a knee in the snow, asking quietly, "Just now, what did you say?" "That person's mad." The proprietress of the medicine hall dumped a basin of water out, saying, "He came from the northwest, all mad and flighty," and before he was even muttering that there were ghosts that came out at night on the Great Wall. Emorigen said quietly, "What did you see?" "Don't be nervous." The madman dumbly watched Emorigen. His gaze was unfocused, but his eyes were bright. In a low voice, Emorigen muttered an incantation and held his palm horizontally, slowly pressing it down onto that madman's forehead. That madman went slowly from shuddering and trembling to calm. The madman widened his eyes, and in his bright eyes appeared Emorigen's reflection. "Everything is okay now," Emorigen comforted him in a quiet voice. "Don't be afraid." Emorigen searched through the clothes on that madman's body, and in a pocket pressed up against his body, he found a tiny piece of metal. On the piece of metal was written, "Tianshui City Guard 273, Lu." The proprietress of the medicine hall looked over Emorigen, and seeing the leather mask that he wore, she suddenly let out a yee. "Hey, husband, come look quick, isn't this the one that they spoke of, that Siwai one?" End chapter.